Welcome back to Crime Scene 24/7. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Every day we uncover true crime stories that don't just shock, they demand answers. This case is one of the most chilling I've ever covered. A 31-year-old mother in Angleton, Texas is now charged with shooting her 4 children. 2 were killed outright. 2 are fighting for their lives. She called 911 herself. The weapon was found. She's being held on $14 million bond. But the deeper truth is darker than it first appears. During her initial interview, she told authorities the children were with the devil. She said she thought she called the devil instead of 911 and claimed they were dead to her. Who was she talking about? Was this an act of desperation or deliberate, calculated violence? In the next hour, we'll peel back every layer, from crime scene to court documents to what's hidden behind her words. Because in a case like this, the truth is rarely the first story told. In the early hours of October 4th, 2025, deputies responded to a call at a gas station in Brazoria County, near Angleton. The caller identified herself as the children's mother. When officers arrived, they found a car with 4 injured children inside. 2 children, ages 13 and 3, were already dead. The other 2, ages 8 and 9, were critically wounded and rushed by helicopter to a Houston hospital. The scene was horrific. Broken glass, shell casings, blood in seats. The mother was detained nearby at the gas station, acting confused, incoherent, offering disturbing statements to deputies. Yet amid the horror, something didn't add up. The shooting reportedly occurred inside the vehicle, but surveillance and witness reports suggested the mother stopped at the station after. The timeline blurred. In that confusing span, bullets, cries, rescue, one fact stood out. She claimed she was acting to protect herself, saying she feared her children would kill her. In her words, "Instead of them doing it to me, I'm gonna do it to them." And just when the public thought they understood, she told investigators that she called the devil instead of 911. That shift in logic forced investigators to ask, was this delusion or a confession disguised? In the hours after deputies arrived in Angleton, crime scene units worked swiftly to preserve what little evidence remained. The mother, Oninda Romelus, had called 911 from a gas station just before 4:48 a.m., telling dispatchers she needed help. But the details she gave were vague and fragmented. When officers reached the vehicle, they found 4 children inside, all shot. A 13-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl were already dead. The other 2, an 8-year-old and 9-year-old Maus, were critically injured and quickly airlifted to a Houston hospital. Investigators collected shell casings, bullets, and fragments from inside and around the vehicle. They processed the scene for fingerprints and DNA, searching every surface where a hand or weapon may have touched. But beyond the physical evidence, they also began to reconstruct the timeline. Surveillance footage from near the gas station and nearby cameras was pulled. Authorities checked receipts and timestamps. Romelus had purchased $56 worth of gas before calling 911. Investigators questioned why the call came from the gas station and not from the shooting site, and whether she had driven the children there afterward. In interviews with law enforcement, Romelus offered chilling statements. She claimed she feared her children would kill her, saying, "Instead of them doing it to me, I'm gonna do it to them." She also told deputies she had called the devil instead of 911. She said the children were with the devil and dead to her. Yet much remained unclear. Where exactly in the vehicle the shots were fired, whether the shooting occurred prior to arriving at the gas station, and whether there were other people involved. But just when the evidence looked confined to the scene, investigators discovered something else. A fragment of a message in her statements, a veiled reference to calling someone else or killing them all. That clue hinted there may be more behind the shooting than a single moment of panic. And that is where the case pivots, from what appears to be a tragic maternal collapse to an investigation digging for hidden motives, conspiracies, and unspoken fractures. As the investigation deepened, law enforcement focused squarely on Oninda Romelus, age 31. She was taken into custody and brought to the Brazoria County Jail, where she is now held on $14 million bond for capital murder. Romulus has no known criminal history. Family members describe her as a devoted mother, quiet and private, with no visible signs of violence in her past. That image clashed violently with the scene investigators uncovered. Her statements during interviews were disturbing. She claimed that her children were with the devil and that at one point she had intended to call 911. But instead, she said, she called the devil. In court documents, her defense argued that she was experiencing a psychotic break. They hinted at mental health issues and possible delusions. But prosecutors countered, citing her coherent actions immediately before and after the shooting as evidence of planning. Investigators discovered gasoline receipts, phone records, GPS pings, and video footage that placed her vehicle near the crime scene before and after the fatal act. The timeline pointed toward deliberation. Yet among the most unsettling revelations was a whispered line she repeated, "I had to kill them all." That phrase became central to the prosecution's narrative. Was it a cry from a fractured mind, or a chilling justification for murder? Then police uncovered a partial fragment from a voice recorder in her vehicle. Though blank in many places, it contained the faint repetition of that phrase, recorded just seconds after the shots. It hinted she may have said it aloud, possibly in shock or in intent. Before we continue, if you've been following this story and you want more cases like this, real investigations, real evidence, and the questions that never seem to have clear answers, take a moment to subscribe to Crime Scene 24/7. Here, we don't just tell stories, we search for truth behind the headlines. Every week, we uncover new evidence, new testimonies, and sometimes, the missing details that mainstream news leaves out. So if you believe every story deserves to be told, hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and join a growing community that refuses to look away. But the more detectives probed her phone records and text messages, another name surfaced and it raised a question no one saw coming. In the days that followed, the Angleton case became the centerpiece of national headlines. Debate raged over maternal mental health, gun access, and how a mother could claim she called the devil instead of 911. Prosecutors painted the narrative as cold and calculated. Supporters and mental health advocates pushed back, arguing that Romulus may have been suffering a psychotic break. Community leaders, clergy, and law enforcement weighed in on talk shows. Some called for stricter laws on weapons and more mental health funding. Others warned against demonizing a grieving family. Mary Ann's father, speaking in a choked voice outside the courthouse, said, "She did that to our children. She took our kids away." Jury selection and pretrial motions commenced. Defense attorneys pushed to suppress some remarks she made during her statements, arguing they were made under duress and not reliable. Prosecutors countered by citing her detailed recounting of events, reinforced by physical evidence as proof of awareness and volition. Legislators in Texas used the case to argue for changes in hospital reporting of postpartum mental health crises and the enforcement of red flag laws. A controversial push given the political climate around gun rights. The tragedy also spurred grassroots groups to demand better monitoring of women re-entering society after psychological evaluation. Public reaction was starkly divided. Some saw Romulus as a monster. Others saw a woman broken by demons she couldn't fight. Editorials and TV debates asked, how do we prevent such a tragedy? Mental health reform, gun control, earlier detection. Each idea drew fierce opposition and support in equal measure. But amid the political theater, investigators quietly advanced a new line of inquiry, one that involved a third party, encrypted messages, and a possible accomplice. And just when the public believed they had the full picture, new digital evidence surfaced, challenging everything the courtroom believed. Just when the case seemed contained to one mother and her children, a new revelation upended everything. Forensic examiners recovered a small, encrypted file from Oninda Romelus's phone, a hidden audio recording. In it, a voice whispers, "Make it final." Data analysts traced the file's creation to a burner device, not registered to Romulus. Logs indicated the same device had encrypted messaging app activity in the days before the shooting, messages that referred to the Marble family by name. Investigators matched metadata from that device to a known associate of Romulus, one with connections to local online extremist groups. The operation now looked less like a breakdown and more like a conspiracy. Prosecutors amended charges to include conspiracy to commit capital murder. Defense attorneys protested, arguing the recording was tampered with or inadmissible. The judge ordered a separate hearing to determine authenticity. Messages pulled from encrypted platforms also contained phrases like, "Deliver the message," and "She knows nothing." The language matched what Romelus had reportedly muttered at times, suggesting someone may have coached her or controlled her in some fashion. And then in a late-night raid, agents discovered chat logs in another suspect's device referencing a hit and naming the Marble address, sent days before the shooting. This third party remains unidentified. In that moment, investigators realized the shooting's scope extended beyond the family. Someone else may have orchestrated the tragedy from behind the scenes, someone still walking free. In the weeks that followed, the Dallas community was gripped by horror and disbelief. The quiet neighborhood where the shooting took place became a sea of flowers, balloons, and hand-drawn pictures left by grieving strangers. At night, candles flickered across the street where 4 small lives were taken, a reminder of how violence can turn even the safest homes into headlines. Authorities held press conferences urging calm and patience. Dallas County District Attorney John Creuzot stood before a packed courtroom, his voice steady but heavy. "This is one of the most disturbing acts of domestic violence we've ever seen. Our community deserves answers and justice." The hearings for Oninda Romelus grew tense. Her defense attorney painted her as a woman lost to psychosis, claiming untreated postpartum depression led her to delusion. Prosecutors countered that the killings were calculated, pointing to deleted texts, a searched history of ammunition purchases, and the encrypted messages recovered from her devices. Experts were called to testify. A psychiatrist told the court, "In rare cases, severe mental breaks can distort reality completely. But even in those moments, intent can still exist." The jury looked torn, faces pale, eyes avoiding the crime scene photos projected behind them. Meanwhile, social media boiled over. Hashtags like #Justice for the Marble Children and "Why did no one stop her" trended nationwide. Conspiracy threads flooded Reddit, some alleging government mind control, others claiming cult involvement. One user even uploaded screenshots of a supposed chat log linking Romelus to a private spiritual awakening group known for violent ideologies. Through it all, the father's statement echoed in every news broadcast. "I left for work that morning thinking my kids were safe. I came home to silence." You can't imagine that kind of pain. The police chief later admitted in a televised interview that mental health flags had been filed months earlier, but no follow-up had been made. "We failed her, and we failed them," he said quietly. As the case reached its sentencing phase, courtroom tension peaked. Reporters filled every seat, cameras lined the halls. When the verdict was read, Oninda Romelus showed no reaction, just an empty stare, as if her mind had already left that room. The judge's voice broke slightly as he delivered the sentence: life imprisonment without parole. Outside, protesters clashed, some demanding the death penalty, others calling for compassion. And yet one question lingered, whispered in every corner of the internet and every late-night news panel. If those encrypted messages really came from someone else, then who was it? Because one piece of evidence, still sealed in FBI custody, might finally reveal whether this mother was a monster or a pawn. Now that you've journeyed through the tragedy of the Marble Children, I want to ask you directly, do you believe Oninda Romelus acted completely on her own? Or was someone else pulling the strings from behind the scenes? Your theory might hold a clue. Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. If you want more deep dives into shocking true crime cases that mainstream news won't fully cover, subscribe to Crime Scene 24/7. Turn on your notification bell, because here, the truth never sleeps. This case is far from over. The answers we've uncovered only scratch the surface. The real darkness may still be hidden in a waiting to be revealed.